Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Alex, and today I'm going to be installing some additional auxiliary power outlets for my little Suzuki caravan, and what I'll be using is a piggyback fuse. So this is what they call a piggyback fuse holder, and what happens is you take out your existing fuse and then you put this into your fuse box. But there are a few things that you have to get right first of all. And first of all, I will explain that I am not a qualified electrician. I am a very keen hobbyist, and I've done many electrical works on vehicles over the years, my vehicles. But yeah, if you are really not sure, go see a professional. First thing I'll do is set my trusty old multimeter to the continuity setting just there. That way when I touch the probes together, you'll get a beep. This will then obviously show which path the electricity will be flowing through the piggyback fuse holder or fuse tap holder, whichever you want to call it. So this side here is the initial feed side. So this will be where the power is coming from, the ignition source from the battery into the fuse box. And hopefully, as you can see there, we have continuity with the two above it, but not the two to either side, and not in the end of the wire. The reason for that is obvious, it's because we haven't got a fuse in it. So what I will do for demonstration purposes, put a fuse in, and you'll now see that we have, if I get it right, continuity. So the electric is coming in this way, going up through the fuse and back down to the original piece of equipment, whichever you've chosen to use. We've then got power going into this one, as mentioned before, but not this one or the end. Pretty basic stuff. So again, as you might guess, putting a fuse in now, we still have continuity to the original equipment, and we now have power going down to your auxiliary. So all parts of both fuses now would have electricity going through to them. The thing you have to remember is you really need to put a lower ampage fuse in the top one, so that if you get any issues with overload, because the power source will then be coming back this way, back down, and potentially into your original piece of equipment that's fused. Now if you're lucky enough to find a fuse box with a spare empty fuse point in it, you don't need the bottom fuse. That way the power is then continuing up and it goes through this way here and through that way to your auxiliary equipment. Just to make it a little bit more obvious, we'll use my multimeter to test an existing fuse. So we've got a main fuse there, and next to it we've got a spare fuse input. So I will connect the negative or ground probe to the negative or ground of the battery, and we're looking for ignition source to 12 volts. And there we have it, 12.5. And just to check to make sure that we've got the opposite connection is 0, I'll just move it across and test that one, and that's 0. That means that this fuse input is a permanent live. If you did want something that turned on and off with the ignition, what you'd be looking for with the ignition turned off was 0 readings, and when the ignition was turned on, 12.5 on 1. I've gone into the main fuse box and I've found the 12 volt auxiliary lighter socket fuse. Removed that, kept the fuse in there, and put an additional fuse in the top fitting. Now this is for demonstration purposes only. So the main ignition's off, and what I'll do is I'll set up a little bit of a light demonstration for you. As you can see, my bulb's up there. I've connected a positive for the bulb to the fuse wire, and this is with the ignition off, and this is it with the ignition turned on. There we go, the light is lighting up. I've put the light on a 5 amp fuse, so if there were any issues with voltage overload, that way the 5 amp would blow well before the 15 amp for the lighter socket. I hope you found that idiot's guide as to how to use a fuse tap or piggyback fuse holder useful. If you did, give us a thumbs up, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But again, as I stated earlier on, I'm not an expert in this field. If you've got any doubts about electricity, consult a professional. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.